Okay, let's talk about the awning with its forward shade fly and side flaps. This thing is not simple. It's made out of 2 layers of sunbrella with a layer of Reflectix insulation in between. It's like bubble wrap, but it's aluminum foil, and you can get dark black shade inside of this thing. The side flaps can be folded down and tied down. They also have a little peek hole in them so that from inside you can see out, even though there's no window to let the sun in. And the side flaps do tie out to the lifeline stanchions. The geometry of the flap has to agree with the position of the stanchions, and the holes in the stanchions have to be very carefully eased in order to prevent cutting the line, both the lifeline and the tie down. Here's the after hoop for the awning. It can be folded down just like the Dodger so that the whole cockpit is left entirely clean, if indeed you want to go racing or some such. And here's the hoop. It folds up and is held with one strut like so. And the pedestals, just like in the case of the Dodger up forward, these pedestals have angled blocks underneath them to permit the after hoop to fold down, angled hardwood blocks. The awning attaches to the after hoop with a zipper and rolls out on top of the Dodger for setup, and the side flaps can be rolled up with the awning, but they also zip off. And note that there is a plastic pipe in the leading edge hem of the awning, and that is led forward and tied around the main shroud rollers. You make the first side up just snug, and then to get the second side tight, you start with both ends of the lashing and go around the roller. One end goes down through the grommet, the other end goes up through the grommet, so you can get a hold of both ends and pull hard forward in order to really get the awning tight. The final lashing looks something like this, and even though the corner is heavily reinforced with several layers of cloth, I don't think I would use a grommet here. Next time I'd use a D-ring because there's a lot of stress on this. At the after edge, there's actually a through-bolt fastening for the awning. And note that all of the edges of the awning and the side flaps are cut with slight hollows in them, hollow scallops, so as to prevent flogging in the wind. You can get the awning good and tight this way, but it's still going to sag enough to puddle in the middle, and so it has to be fitted with a ridge pole. And here's the ridge pole. It's just a piece of light aluminum tube that has holes drilled through both walls at both ends. And that thing gets slid up underneath the awning but over the top of the Dodger, and push it far enough forward so that it comes out at the leading edge. At the forward edge it looks like this alongside the mast, and that gives you enough room back aft to get the end of it through that oblong hole, and it goes over the hoop. It goes over the metal hoop like so, and it also goes over that zipper underneath, which will be used later for the cockpit mosquito screen. And up forward you can slide it through the oblong hole and over the plastic pipe in the hem, and there's a line there that ties around the plastic pipe and goes through the holes in the ridge pole and up through an eye on the gooseneck of the boom. You can reeve it through there and pull on that in order to elevate the ridge pole by pulling on the plastic pipe and not the ridge pole itself. So there's the ridge pole from underneath, and it will hold the awning up and prevent it from puddling and from flogging in the wind. Getting in and out of the cockpit requires ducking under the awning like so, and once you're in here, it's not full standing headroom. You can't stand erect, but you can walk around. And there's plenty of sitting headroom under the awning. And I'm 6'3". Of course, the awning's after hoop must be arranged with the boom so as that the two can clear each other, allowing you to keep the awning erected while sailing. To achieve this may require recutting the foot of the mainsail slightly to give enough clearance. And that implies a fixed topping lift so that the boom cannot drop at the outboard end, and a fixed gooseneck on the mast so that the boom cannot slide up and down the usual gooseneck slide. Incidentally, there's a conflict between the lower shroud and the awning, and it tended to chafe there, so we had to put a chafing patch on the awning to prevent that. And furthermore, the lower shroud, notice that it is set on a block of very hard wood, very carefully epoxified and bolted true to its usual doubler inside. It's the same position, it's just an inch farther outboard than it would be in a normal installation. If there's any wind at all, the side flaps have to be tied up on top of the awning by simply crossing over to the opposite shroud and around the ends of the ridge pole. So this forward shade fly, which fastens along underneath the boom tent there, comes out and ties to the baby stay, and the corners are also tied down, and there's a piece of pipe in the leading edge of it, so it'll take a lot of wind without flogging. And you can easily roll the thing up around this plastic pipe in the leading edge and put it away. Note that the pipe is scalloped forward and that the edges are scalloped hollow. And notice that the shade fly sticks out a long way to shade the transparent portion of the Dodger. When looking forward, it's like having a very long bill on your cap. If you're in the cockpit looking forward, that shade fly takes the glare off of the immediate foredeck so that you can see where you're going, even in very bright conditions. Here's how it looks from inside. And of course, the forward edge of it can be lowered down to the deck in order to throttle the breeze and let in just as much as you want depending on how hard it's blowing. So you can leave the Dodger down, or even if it's taken off like at the moment, and still keep the better part of the breeze out of the cockpit to the extent that's desired. And also, the Dodger can be used in the half-up position, such as is shown here from the outside. If it's a little too breezy in the cockpit, you can pop the Dodger half up and still have plenty of air moving over the top of it in order to ventilate the cockpit while having dinner. Note that the awning is set well above the Dodger. It takes a very hard wind to bring rain in through this slot. So what that means is that when you're sitting here navigating, looking out through the vinyl window, if there's something you can't quite see because of the distortion in the vinyl, you can always stick your head up here and have a peek outside through clear air without getting rain in the face or spray in the face under most conditions. And when it gets heavy, you can close up this space by dropping the Dodger, dropping the awning down on top of the Dodger. So if you really want to close up that space, you can release the line that elevates the ridge pole and drop the awning right down on top of the Dodger.